merchandise.
Yes.
So that's an expense. And you have classes. How are you getting people in? Is social media and the classes the main focus of how you're getting? Like I was talking to a woman in like Havasu, and she's always trying to think of new ways to get people in the door. Do you feel like you have that, or do you feel like you just have a base that you don't have to do? What is it like at this shop?
We have a pretty good base.
So you're here 8 years. So
yes.
Yes.
Right. And so we always announce all our classes on email. Mm-hmm. And if there's one, so last year especially, we decided we needed to kind of rein in about how we need to focus on the classes, and we really focused on techniques, and we want people to know how to do things and how to do them properly and precision,
right?
Which you and I have talked
right.
about on the side.
Exactly. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, and so that is something that's super important to us, and we want people to know how to do that, and also how to do, if you want to learn how to do machine applique, but you may not need to do a whole quilt to learn that. Mm-hmm. So we did last year, throughout the year, we did a ton of technique classes that were less time, less expensive, and they were just technique based. You didn't have to make a whole quilt. You were just making one thing.
And by doing that, do you find people buying more in the shop because they now have a technique and they can do the wool, they can do other things, the embroidery?
I think people find what they like and what they don't like, and I think they like that better because instead of having to buy a whole kit or quilt for to do an embroidery project,
it's an emotional expense that we sometimes just can't deal with.
And then you decide you don't like embroidery, but guess what? You may really like needle turn applique, and you learn that, and so now you know where to focus your next project on, and so I think it works well.
How important is it? How important is it to have beginners, like new people quilting? Is that important to the shop?
Yes. So we run at least 2, sometimes 3 beginning quilting classes throughout the year. And we limit them to 6 to 7 people per class because we want everybody to have, and we have 2 teachers that teach it at the same time. So we want them.
A lot of hands-on time.
Yes, hands-on, and they're 2-hour classes each class, and it's a 8-week-long series, and you make a quilt. In the end, you have a finished quilt if you do what you're supposed to do. Right. But, we teach you everything from learning how to cut to learning how to sew, how to find the
and it's
proper...
to make the top, right? That's what you're focused on? Or are you also doing free motion quilting
We don't do free motion, but we teach them how to do straight line quilting.
That's great.
And then binding.
That's great.
So you literally have a whole quilt when you're finished.
Do you do free motion quilting as well, or do you like the piecing better?
I like piecing better. I will do a little bit of quilting on smaller projects or baby quilts, but my big quilts, I send those out.
And you like big quilts?
I do.
Oh, see, that's the thing. If you like big quilts, that makes it's just a whole nother game.
You can't.
I only like lap quilts because I don't have enough patience for. Although I'm thinking about with this one. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Yeah. So, splendid sampler. Mm-hmm. So there were how many people here yesterday?
We had 24. We have 26 signed up. So 2 did not make it yesterday.
And so there was a display set up of like a sewing machine with a whole bunch of stuff in front, and then how to make the 2 blocks for this. It's a block of the month. We're doing 2 blocks a month.
Correct.
And then what I thought was so interesting about it was and this I think is your brainchild, right? So it was very modern, and it was very about kind of the now. So you explained the blocks, but then it became about shopping, and it became about the products in the store and about how to use them and what they were. And it was like at least as much time with that.
Yes.
And everyone went crazy and bought a bunch of stuff yesterday, which is kind of remarkable. So I was because one more thing I'll say about it. So it was $40 for the year.
Yes.
And that included the fabric. And that's totally unusual for a Block of the Month club because usually they're like $20 a month or $40 a month. And I kept thinking and you have to finish your block to get the next one and all that. That's fine. Right. Or you pay $5. But I thought, why? What are they doing here? And this is your brainchild, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the behind the scenes of this thing that you've created because it was really remarkable. Because what you guys did yesterday was the rave of the future, I think. And it was incredible.
Well,
to watch. I mean, it really was.
Well, thank you. It's something I really enjoy. So this is my second year doing it. So we've
did
learned
this last year that same way.
Yes. Well, we've modified a little bit. This kind of goes back to our market experience when I went to a couple of schoolhouses for.
It feels like a schoolhouse in some
for
way, right?
some ladies, for a lady that does this same thing at her shop.
Yeah.
And I mean, she has like hundreds of people and like she has times throughout the day that people are supposed to come and pick up, and we can't accommodate that
because
here.
it's full. I mean,
yes,
you have as many seating as you can.
Like, we had originally planned. Our plan was, once we started getting so many, last year we had 13. So this year we have 26. We originally were going to cut it off at 25. That was going to be our cutoff point. And a group of ladies called, and they were coming from Hammond.
Right. So people came from Mississippi.
Yes.
They came from Hammond. Did you have other? I mean, that's okay, for people who don't know. We're not very close to these places. So they came 40 minutes, even 2 hours. How
the Mississippi ladies are probably about
is remarkable. Like that. I mean, that tells you that there was something here. So, okay. So that was the first part of it. Now, so that's why you get people in, you teach them a basic technique, you give them private spaces for shopping, and you teach them like about a particular ruler or something else so that you can move the merchandise. Now, do you plan ahead to have a certain amount of that here? Because I think you guys ran out of everything.
So that was kind of one of our discussions leading up to it. So yesterday, one of the big things that we were really talking about was the block lock ruler. And I'm a complete convert. So
you had, I mean, that was the other thing is I was wondering because you were really selling it, and I thought, is it like real selling or it was totally real selling?
This has changed my life.
Changed your life. I mean, very interesting.
It was like,
and you guys sold. I mean, they were like people were like they were on the table and people were like trying to grab them. It was madness here.
So
it was so crazy.
It was like, do we buy 26
and then have extra?
Right. Or so what we decided was, I think we got about 10, in, and because again, as we've talked about, like all of this it costs money to have all this merchandise in the store.
But it's the same model that Vanessa uses, which is a captive, and maybe that's where you got it from too. It's a captive audience that if you put it in front of them, they're going to buy it because they start to trust you. And you don't give them things that they don't need.
And that is our huge, like that is like the biggest thing that we preach here is we're not going to just sell you a bunch of stuff to sell it to you.
Yeah.
And Angie has done that with me from day one. And even in our beginning classes, you need to buy some basics because you probably don't have quilting rulers and things like that, but you buy 3 rulers, and that's what she wants you to start with is 3, a 6.5 by
24,
a 6.5 by 24, a 6.5 by 12 and a half.
Yeah, that's what I've got one of those.
And a 12.5 by 12.5 square.
Yeah.
And if you think about it,
you can do a lot with that.
You can do almost any of your basic or anything with those 3 rulers.
Yeah.
Because rarely do you make blocks that are bigger than 12 inches, 12 and a half inches finished.
Right.
And so you don't need a 6.5 inch square. You don't need an 8.5 inch square. You don't need, so she doesn't want you to have just a bunch of gadgets without the tools to use them.
Right.
So the block lock is kind of what we go to. I had resisted it forever. And she made me take it home because she's like, we're going to teach it. We need to talk about this. And I said, okay. So I'm like, I'm going to take it home.
It's so funny.
And I texted her like 30 minutes later and I'm like, why did you not force me to do this?
So funny.
No, it was a complete honest.
That's really interesting. Well, I mean, it was so interesting to see. And I think it is the model, right? So we've paid money to be here for you to sell us things, which is kind of remarkable, which is what but also, all of the women, a few men, but mostly women, were so excited to be here. They were part of something special. The shop was open just for them, and they were buying like crazy. Like, it was like, you would have thought, I mean, it was so bizarre. And you guys that must be good for revenue.
Yes, it is. And especially it's a day that we're normally closed.
Right.
So
extra.
And so so I will tell you this. So as I said, I did this one last year. I had 13 ladies. 12 of my 13 are in the class again this year.
That's really interesting. I was going to wonder. So that is really good too. So again, building up, and what I'm seeing in these interviews is building up that base, that you want a loyal base, and that you get it bigger, 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 bigger. And that's, and each person's base is different. It doesn't have to be 30,000 people. It could be 30, right? If you have 30 people here once a month buying stuff, that's great.
And we have different, and it's funny because we have different bases throughout the week even, because we have once a month, we have our Woolly Works group.
So smart.
Those ladies we have a group of ladies that come from past Baton Rouge once a month to come for this. So that's a different.
And do you think that's key for a shop, that you keep these bases of people that you know are going to be here and buying and participating and sort of the life of the shop? How important is that to the just regular?
I think it's very important, but I think it's also important for them, for their community. Yeah. And that's their community. Right. And they see, there's the ladies that come that are local, but then from away, and they get to see these ladies once a month, and you catch up and you just become friends.
Yeah. Now, how much is tourism here? Because we're in New Orleans. Do you get a good set of people coming?
We do.
Yeah.
So usually I'm here on the Saturday that we're open, and probably most of I'd say we have at least one or two people that come in on that Saturday that tell us.
You're a little far away from the
center.
Right. So we have another shop that's on Magazine, and they said it's Uptown Needle and Craftwork.
Mm-hmm.
And half of their traffic is tourist traffic because they're on Magazine. Right. You're not. You're in the suburb, not suburb, but just 10 minutes from 10 minutes outside of New Orleans. But it's just a different thing. You're a local shop.
Correct.
You're not a tourist shop.
No, we are not. But we do get a lot of tourists coming through, but it's not our main group of people.
Yeah. So cool. Okay, well, this is super great. Well, will you be willing to come on some more and be part of our quilting army?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to turn off the recording, but we're going to do a bonus thing because I am in the Splendid Sampler, and I made them last night, and they're not perfect. So we're going to turn on the YouTube. We're going to turn on the GoPro, and we're going to do a little video and see if Rachel can help me figure out why I am not perfect in any way. So thank you again, and I can't wait to keep chatting with you. I'm so psyched. This is great. One of the things I want to do next time is talk about your favorite designers and your favorite tools and who we should think about to try to get on the show, and chat more about that whole world of, because it's interesting. We'll do it as a part 2, but there's a really interesting, the hierarchy and the strata and who's buying what, and I imagine you have a really interesting outlook on all that. So let's do that next time.
Sounds great. I'll be happy to.
Okay, fab. All right, thanks. So this is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. You've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. We want to hear from you. Join our army, our quilting army. Go to our Facebook page. Suggest people to be interviewed. Suggest yourself to be interviewed.